pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, we need to amend the agenda. I need a motion to add an addendum to item C2, personnel report, add item G4, the VSBA policy services contract, and add item G5, policy JGDZ, student parent appeals.
So moved.
Second's been moved in second to modify the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. First order of business, I guess next order of business is public comments. We have comments from two people tonight. First up is Mr. Robert Flood. And I need to do our usual here before you start. Persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, use language insults or demeans any persons or which when directed at a public official or employee is not related to his or her official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, or affairs of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit his comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of his or her presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. Okay, Mr. Flood.
First of all, I'd like to thank the school board to give me a chance to express my concerns about this matter. This is not the first time that I have brought this up on different occasions. It's about the volunteering of ex-offenders, non-violent offenders not being able to volunteer at the school system because of a felony they got 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it has become a problem because you got, not only myself, you have parents that live with kids 24/7, and they can't even go on field trips with them for 2 hours, you know, and that's a concern. Because they had a felony 20 years ago that was nonviolent. Two things I wanted to know, is it an update? Because I know we discussed this before about what's going on with this, and when did it happen, when did they change the rules, and what happened for them to change the rules? Because I know back in 91, 92 when Ms. Knight was director, I substituted in the school system myself 3 years with a felony on my record. And I went to a school at Lincoln University for 8 years. I worked before I came back here. Got my degree. Now I'm working on my master's in criminal justice. And I just don't understand how, if I apply for a job, it won't be no sense. But I can't even apply to go volunteer. And I've been working with young people off and over 20 years. And the other thing is, who make the decisions? And if it's possible that I could sit down with the members that make the decisions and see if we can come up with a different solution to try to mend this a different way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Carl Luce.
School board members, student representatives, school administrators, and concerned citizens of Lynchburg. For those who do not know me, my name is Carl Luce, and I am the president of the Lynchburg Education Association. I look forward to working with each of you to strengthen the community of Lynchburg by providing the very best in quality education here. As we work to make Central Virginia a beacon for others to follow, I will need your help. More than two decades of research findings are unequivocal about the connection between teacher quality and student learning. In a book called What Matters Most, Teaching for America's Future, studies show that 3 truths exist. 1, what teachers know and can do is the most important influence on what students learn. 2, retaining good teachers is a central strategy for improving our schools. And 3, school reform cannot succeed unless it focuses on creating the conditions under which teachers can teach and teach well. A University of Tennessee report found that the most important factor affecting student learning is the teacher. Even in the News in Advance a week ago, our own Dr. McLean pointed out that if students are learning and thriving, what's causing them to get there is good teaching. I can go on and on with this, and I think I'm preaching to the choir when I say that if we want good results out of the schools, we must have good people in the schools. But the fact of the matter is this: you get what you pay for. And Lynchburg has seen the number of educators leaving the city increase in recent years, going up 3% in the last year alone, according to the latest information from personnel. And of those leaving, nearly 40% had 5 or more years of experience. We're talking about veteran teachers, award-winning teachers, who are being snapped up by other schools across the state. This division has asked more and more of its staff in recent years, but hasn't increased the compensation to match the workload. Over the last 2 years, for example, we have worked in 11 months out of the year, which impacts a great deal of the economic opportunities of those employees who have to work 2 or more jobs to make ends meet. Dr. Brabrand has spoken of the negative impact that poverty has had on the success of students in our schools. Yet it takes a classified employee working for the Lynchburg City Schools 11 years to rise above the living wage for Lynchburg, Virginia, as calculated by MIT. The fact of the matter is, if we want to do better for our students, we need to start doing better for our teachers, for our bus drivers, for our support personnel, for our maintenance crews, and for everyone associated with educating these students. We need to understand that commitment must be rewarded, experience must be rewarded, and leadership must be rewarded, because it is commitment, experience, and leadership which will lead us to success. If we want to have every student by name and by need to graduation, then we also need every employee by site and by station to fair compensation. To this end, the Lynchburg Education Association has a compensation committee that has been working for the past few months on a solution to this crisis. We will be bringing to this administration, to this board, to City Council, and to the Lynchburg community a salary scale for LCS employees that does not increase the starting salary point nor the ending salary point from the current scale. It is a plan that will recognize all employees for years of service, provide wage increases where needed, and eliminate the need for the board to appeal to council year in and year out for a paltry wage increase that fall well short of the area's cost of living increases. We are not oblivious to the recent budget developments on the state level. We are not unaware of the issues in Central Virginia. However, Lynchburg's educators have carried their share of the economic struggles over the last 10 years. It's time we invest in the success of Lynchburg, and that success starts in the schools. The plan we will be bringing forth in the next few weeks will provide the city with a solid path with which to move forward, knowing it's not only attracting the best teachers, but it's retaining them as well. We may not be able to end poverty for all of our students, but we for sure can end poverty for all our employees. Thank you.
Next is, next is item B, Finance Report. Mr. Beckles.
Good evening. You have before you the financial report for the month of July. You know, July is the first month of a fiscal year. You'll note that particularly on the expense side, the report is a bit scant, because it's only have 1 month of really it's only 1 month of the 12-month employees from the salary perspective and benefits in, and just the first month of expenses. So there's not really much to report as far as the July report is concerned. There are no issues I need to bring to your attention. There are no unplanned or unforeseen events that happened that I need to bring to your attention as far as the financial statements are concerned. So there's nothing on the revenue side, there's nothing on the expense side. There are some other items that I would like to bring to your attention. One, the audit field work is complete. So we're just waiting on the final approval, so to speak, of our numbers from our auditors. The estimated fund balance is about $1.2 million. Of that 1.2, if you remember, before the year end, we had requested to transfer $600,000 from the health reserve. We used about a little less than 100,000 of that. So in that 1.2 is 500,000 of the insurance reserve that we're going to return. So when you take that away from the 1.2, basically our fund balance from an operational perspective is about $740,000. Better to zero, not as high as it was last year. So now, as soon as our auditors confirm that that number is, there's no adjustment to that number, then we'll be bringing our recommendation for how would we request to reallocate the fund balance. So at this point, it stands at $1.2 million. And the third thing I would like to say is the annual school report, if you know that is due on September the 15th each year. We are preparing that to file it for on time for next week, Thursday. Other than that, I have no information to bring to your attention from a financial perspective.
Board questions? I have a question. Is there any conjecture at this point as to the Virginia state budget and potential rebalancing we'll have to do in this coming fiscal year?
You mean any update as far as how it would affect us? At this point, it does not look like the 2% salary increase that the governor was proposing. At this point, it does not look like that will come true. If they reallocated that whole, I think it's 125 million to cover the deficit. But I think Dr. Brabant has to further comment on what we're planning to do.
While we've not gotten the news we wanted from the state, I have directed Mr. Beckles to look at our existing budget and see if there are ways that we can honor the 2% for our employees and 4% for some other designated folks that we had already planned in the budget. I don't have information at this time to share, but it is my belief that we need to do everything we can to commit to our employees for the salary increases that were already proposed in this year's budget. And I hope to have more information on that. The governor just made his announcement, as you know, about a week ago, and we just haven't had time yet to go through all the numbers, but it's certainly one of the things that we want to take a big look at, and we would be getting that information to you sooner rather than later.
On that vein, I would like to wait until we've run the expense, we've closed September, because that way we'll have all the encumbrances, and all of the payroll and benefits encumbrances in, which is the almost 80% of our budget. So I'd like for September to go by first. Then I could tell basically what we potentially may have. Any number I give you before that, I won't feel comfortable in that being a solid number. So if we wait till the close of September, then we could have a more accurate number of yes, we can do that, or no, we can't, or where can we move things around to accomplish, to cover the salary increase.
Next is item C, the consent agenda. It includes the school board meeting minutes from our August 16th regular meeting, personnel report and addendum, policy BDDH, public participation. And I just want to emphasize the attachment there. Some of it's just some legal revised wording due to some recent judicial decisions, and then there's a addition to the comments that we had 4 people coming before the board. And then there's also a listing of religious exemptions included in your packet, which is considered confidential. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next up is student representative comments. Ms. Page, what's going on at Heritage?
So much is going on in Heritage. It's been a great first 3 weeks in #1 Big Orange Country. Our first week, Heritage had a wonderful first week of school in our new building with great technology and a positive atmosphere. Everyone was in just such a good mood. I've never seen Heritage with so much spirit before. And these are new pictures of our new school, our band room, our lovely library, new science labs. as well as our new art room. And Pioneer Theater invites you to be our guest. Our big production this year is Beauty and the Beast, and I am excited to be teching for it. I'll be doing lights, hopefully. We also have To Kill a Mockingbird, It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play, and Tally's Folly. Lynchburg Living's Best Live Theater. In addition to all of our great shows we will have this year, Heritage High School's Pioneer Theater is honored to have made it to the final round of voting in Lynchburg Living's Best of Lynchburg. We are in the competition for Best Live Theater under the Lifestyle section. SAT Prep. SAT preparation occurred in the Forum from 12 o'clock to 3 p.m. on August 20th. Our first volleyball game. The Lady Pioneers were victorious over Stanton River in both varsity and junior varsity volleyball. This was the first volleyball game we played in our new field house, and it was such an honor to be there and to watch my friends play. Pioneer football. Our football team traveled to Northside High School on September 2nd and won 40-7. Way to go, Pioneers. Frankie Hickson, he's a graduate. He graduated last year. I didn't know him personally, but I did see him in the halls. We would like to congratulate him. He plays football for Liberty University, and he was able to get some field time against Virginia Tech. Leland Melvin, Lynchburg local and astronaut Leland Melvin captured amazing scenes of Earth from space, which will be featured in the Academy Art Center of the Arts Warehouse Theater Gallery for the month of September. I just love those pictures. And that's what's...
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is item E, school board committee reports. Are there any committees that have been active?
Finance committee did meet. I believe Mr. Beckles gave us a full rundown. I don't think anything else stood out of that, but finance committee did meet.
Ms. Carter?
The EC Glass Friends of the Art met also for the first time in this fiscal year, and just want to say the postcards will be available during the art show September the 17th, that's Saturday.
Dr. Coleman?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Equity Task Force has met, and I believe that there's an agenda item that would best represent those concerns.
Anyone else?
Our school meets tomorrow, so next time I'll have it.
We'll look forward to it.
I just think that was doing nothing.
Okay, next is item F, unfinished business. Mr. Copeland has a discussion on the crisis plan for 2016-17.
Good evening, everyone. You should have received copies of the crisis plan for you to look at and review. We certified them with the state by the end of August, so the closing action is really just your acknowledgement that you've had a chance to review the plans. If you have any feedback, please provide that to me via email or some other method. Start working on it.
Yeah, this item is for action tonight, and which doesn't mean that if you think of something afterwards, you can still give Mr. Copeland an email. Please be sure to copy our superintendent on that also, email. Dr. Coleman.
Mr. Chair, I would like to acknowledge that I have reviewed this and I have it to turn in today, and I'm very proud of myself on that. And very good report.
We will pick it up.
So if there are no further comments, can I have a motion to approve the 2016-2017 crisis plans? Second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2016-17 crisis plans for the city of Lynchburg school system. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is item F2, school board retreat for this year. Dr. Raybrand.
Thank you, Dr. Nellis. We have identified on your sheet here 5 topics, and we received 2 more today for the retreat on November 3rd. The first listed is the teacher pay scale. The second is employee assignments and position allocation. The third is public information outreach. The fourth is school start times. The fifth is school board finance training. And we received today 2 additional items information about training around the new dress code policy, and information around training around our new equity policy, our equity principles. So that is 7 topics. I did share with Dr. Nillis that we can put these out to you this week and ask you to rank these topics in order of importance, and try to have for you, really, maybe, hopefully, if Ms. Sullivan can find the time to rank them, and I can put that in Friday memo and let you see what that looks like with perhaps a tentative. That's a little too soon. Okay. Shortly this week or next week, to give you the ranking and then maybe a proposed agenda that we could bring formally to the next school board meeting to let you see what those topics would look like and the times associated with them for the retreat. So those are the topics. I don't know if there's any more, but those 7 would be given to you, and you would be able to rank them in order of importance. And then we'll build the retreat agenda around that.
Board member comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Next is new business, item G1, the Special Education Advisory Committee. Dr. McLean?
Good evening. The Special Education Advisory Committee, the membership comes forth to the board on an annual basis for your consideration and approval. You'll notice in the agenda item we have the proposed representatives. This is for information this evening and action at our next meeting.
Any board member comments or questions? I guess I have a question on the appointments are generally 2-year staggered for the
Yes.
representatives?
Typically 2 years, and then if a member is appointed by the board and within that first year they determine that they're unable to repeat for the second year, then we fill their term.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
No other questions? Okay, thank you. Next, for new business is item G2, Administrative Regulations 6-58, Student Evaluation and Grading Procedures. Dr. McLean?
Last winter, the board approved what is now the current high school program of studies. One of the components in that program of studies was a move from a semester basis for courses to a year basis for most courses. In doing that, we now have the need to update policy to match what the program of studies did. And so we come to you this evening for information tonight, proposed action the following meeting, these updates to 6-58. Basically, with this, what we try to do is mirror what was put forth in the program of studies with making minimal changes to other aspects of this policy. The key points you'll see in here are really 2 main things. One was how to calculate grades when you move from calculating for a semester to calculating for a year. And the other was what to do with an exam period where there used to be an exam at the end of each semester. What's written into here as the proposal came forth conferring with our school administrators over the summer of the best way to do this in alignment with what was put forth in the program of studies. So to that exam piece, what this also does is removes the December exam, which was one of the points of emphasis from the board when this was voted on last year. It maintains the exam at the end of the year, and it would have it be comprehensive for the full year. So those are the components that are in here in the proposed changes.
Questions or comments? Okay, I'll bite. I guess my understanding of the removal of the midwinter exam had to do with the holiday break and the loss of learning, whatever. And that's understandable, but was there any consideration given to having like a midterm and before the break? You know, toward the end of December, as far as for a year-long course to have a...
Sure. Can you clarify the difference between a midterm and a December exam?
Mid-year.
A mid-year?
A mid-year that would be in December, and kind of give them a couple of big exams as opposed to having one.
Gotcha. Yeah. It was definitely part of our debate and sort of where that turned. I mean, because part of it was having a longer exam was what created that shortened schedule in December, or that adjusted schedule in December. And so we had a debate about the need for cumulative testing, which an exam does. And so what we said is, and what we proposed in the policy is you can still do that on quarterly exams. You can go back and cycle back through material that had been learned during the year. But the policy proposal before you does remove that December exam.
Okay. Ms. Carter?
So for clarification, will there be other exams or just one comprehensive exam?
There would be one comprehensive exam at the end of the year. It kind of probably depends on how you want to define exam. So there would be one assessment that would be a standalone part of the grade as compared to an assessment that may review prior material but be part of that quarter's grade.
So will there be one exam or quarter exams, just one exam?
If by exam you mean something that's
Yeah,
a standalone
it's the
grade,
assessment.
there would be one exam and it would be at the end of the year.
Ms. Morrison?
With so many exemptions allowed for the end of the year exam, if you're in an AP class, you take the AP test. If you pass the SOL, you don't have to take the end of the year. How does that impact the number of exams that our students will not be taking, and are we preparing them for exams when they get to college?
Right. That was definitely part of our debate.
And I'm sorry, I missed it all.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Our internal debate to develop this.
No. If I could tack onto that, if you could also refresh us on what the exam exemptions would be. Like
Sure.
other than taking AP or SOLs and stuff, like what are the ways that you could get out of those?
Okay, let me do that, and then if that makes sense. So if you look at the policy, it basically outlines it in Section D, which is for advanced placement and standards of learning tests. For an AP test, a student that is in a course that's an AP course and has an AP test does not need to have an exam as part of that. For standards of learning tests, for those courses that have those, then basically it's on the basis of your score. So you have to pass the SOL test to be exempt from that. And a student may choose or not choose to do that, because you then, pass proficient is a 90, pass advanced is 100. Some students may or may not choose to use that, especially with a pass proficient, if that doesn't get them over what they're trying to do for the way that averages in. In our internal discussion about that, because it was something we weighed heavily, was the thought that the advanced placement test is in many ways an exam. The standards of learning test is in many ways an exam, in the sense that they are cumulative, comprehensive assessments of what a student should know and be able to do by the end of that course. So the thought is that still does provide some preparation. We also encourage there to be cumulative tests that happen throughout the year and not only in an exam time, so a student is still accountable for being fresh with material that had been learned earlier in the year.
I guess from my standpoint, you're making a distinction between an exam, which is very like a formal, big-time, highly weighted test, and other assessment tests that are given regularly. I always ran into that trouble with my kids when it's like, oh, we're having exams. I'm like, well, what's your test? No, it's an exam. I'm not sure I still get it, but.
But the exam is a percentile of the cumulative grade, whereas other assessments are packed into the grade for the 9 weeks.
Yeah, it's really the main distinction of an exam is, at least in the way we've operationalized it over time, it is a standalone grade, so it's not averaged in with a particular quarter's grade. So for example, in this, if you had 4 quarters in an exam, each of those counts 20%. Right. Okay. The other is typically an exam has been a longer duration test than a single period. That's typically been the defining characteristics as we've had it here.
All right. Thank you. Other questions?
I would be interested in knowing how many students actually take exams at the end of the year. an exam that's not a standardized test. AP exams, I know, they're very comprehensive, and there are a lot of critical thinking skills and other higher level skills. An SOL test may or may not do this, require the same amount of knowledge. I also question that when students are struggling in a year-long class and they get to the end of the year and they suddenly have a test that counts, an exam that counts 20% of the grade, that has to me, a more significant impact on that student. If they're taking the exam at the end of the year and they've been struggling during the year, and then all at once they have a end of the year examination that's 20% of their grade. So that impact could be pretty significant, in my opinion.
Ms. Carter?
She
got it?
Just, we're reading each other's minds.
Okay, so this will come back to us next meeting for approval. Thank you.
And if I can just clarify, Ms. Morrison, the specific piece of information to be helpful is basically how many students, or maybe a percentage rate of students who have exemptions from different courses, or just overall?
I am interested in knowing how many students take an actual exam, a teacher-developed exam at the end of the year, and what impact that had on the year-long grade.
Okay.
And you can do that by looking at the end of the year, the grades that are printed out.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Carter?
Were there other thoughts regarding the exams or how to incorporate more assessment other than that one standalone assessment for the final one? Were there other alternatives voiced or verbalized for how to do an assessment for the students instead of having just that one at the end of the course?
I think I understand your question, but you can tell me after I answered if I did or not. There is embedded in here the idea of having different types of like end-of-year projects and things like that go through an approval process with the school administrator, and also an encouragement for assessments during the year to be cumulative, spiraling in nature back to what had been learned previously in different parts of the year. So that's embedded in here, and we can certainly modify it to emphasize that more or whatever. In our internal debate, in terms of a couple options, we kind of had this one, and we had the idea of maintaining an exam at the end of the first semester, or in December. Actually, I guess there were three. So there was that idea, but that seemed to be the pleasure of the board when this was passed, was to move away from having that exam period in December. So we were trying to follow a lot of what that was. The other piece we talked about was whether the exam would be cumulative for the entire year or cumulative for the semester when it's given in the spring. And so we sided with it should be cumulative for the year. Otherwise, you're kind of weighting the second semester a lot more than you are the first semester.
Other comments, Ms. Poore?
I feel like a jerk for asking, but could you step back a few paces? So we have new members of the board, and honestly, I can't explain it very well myself. Why did we change from semester to year-round? Would that be helpful? Good, that would be helpful, just to refresh us.
Yeah, I do rewind in my own head here. So there were a number of things of consideration. Maybe Dr. Berry, you can help me if I'm missing some of these. One of I'd say the most significant ones is that when you have a longer time period of a course, you have a longer opportunity to be successful in that course. If you are struggling in the first semester and you fail that course, let's just call it like English 10, okay? You fail the first semester of English 10. You continue going through that course, you may actually pass by the end of, for the second semester of English 10, you've kind of caught up and gained it, but you still have a course you failed, which hurts you for graduations and credits because now you got to go back and make that up. Whereas if you have it as a year-long course, you have a chance to kind of be able to make up for what you've missed as you've gone along. That was one.
Let me, on that one, most districts had gone to high schools had gone to a year-long credit. we were one of the only ones with semester by semester. We were in summer school, people were making up semester 1, some were making up semester 2, versus there's a year course, you either pass the course or you don't. So that's one of the pieces of trying to get more kids actually to have success. Sometimes you're a slow runner and you can pick up speed. You get my cat at convocation, many of you saw. The cat I started with, I didn't have any assistance from a teacher, maybe not such a high grade. By the end, I would have a better cat. Hopefully many of you thought it was a better cat. And the teacher would, and I'd get a higher grade. So we really thought the year-long approach gave an opportunity for more kids to get in the setup for success for the whole year, instead of, oh, at a semester you've already failed, and then I got to stay another semester in a course that I already got to make up half of. You could keep kids on the hook longer and see greater success over a year-long course than a semester approach. That was one.
Yep, and I'd say there are divisions that do semester grades, but they also do the sort of different kind of block scheduling approach where you're taking the entire course within a semester. So that's a little bit different than what we've done, which is taken what was a whole course and splinter it in 2, and then you get a half credit for each and a different grade for each. So we were looking to have the entire course be a credit and you get a grade for that whole thing rather than splintering it, for really those 2 reasons of aligning with what a lot of folks do around us, so that when you have transfers in and out, that makes that a little bit more fluid, and also the piece about more opportunity for success.
A couple of other things that I would want to add. We're really increasing instructional time for our AP kids and all kids taking an SOL before the test administration happens in May. And every one of those days, we had 3 or 4 half days in December that now can be full days of instruction. Every teacher can give assessments. Remember, we give benchmarks in the fall and spring, which are cumulative up until that time. Teachers give tests. We have the AP test, SOL test. It really is a little bit of a philosophy right now. Do we think kids are over-tested or under-tested? We think this year-long approach provides more time for instruction, less time for testing. There is the big one at the end of the year, and maybe that's a little bit more of a challenge, but I think what we would say to you is we can show you data from before and we can show you data this year and let you guys start to look and go, wow, what is the impact it's having? This isn't set in stone forever, but we did feel this is an approach that more schools were doing. It's going to help more of our kids stay in the game longer, and if a kid doesn't have success, we're not spending time over the summer school a half a credit of this and the other half a credit of that. You have to staff for that, teach for that. We had a more complicated system than lots of other school divisions around high school credit, and we think this is going to help have more kids have success. It'll be streamlined and it'll increase instructional time before these end of the year assessments.
May I add one other, I'm sorry, the question is now helping the memory bank come back on some of those pieces. We also did make the decision in the way that the calendar was set up with semesters, that because we were moving to the year-round, or the full year, I should say, basis, what that meant was the first semester and the second semester didn't have to be equal lengths, which enabled us also then to end the second quarter or first semester at the winter break, because one of the pieces, in addition to the half-day exam days, was that the first 2 weeks of January were a little bit of a time where you've already given the exam, because you didn't want students to have to do that, spend the break before taking the exam, but the quarter didn't start yet. So it enabled us to kind of go forth without having equal quarters to make it better match the natural breaks within the year. So.
Thank you. Next is item G3, Equity Task Force Membership and Bylaws. Dr. McLean, Mr. Brabrand.
Dr. McLean?
And Dr. Coleman referenced that some of the update with Equity Task Force would be part of this agenda item. Call on Ms. Ethel Reeves to come up and share some of the updates related to Task Force and Task Force membership.
Good evening. In front of you, you have the updated bylaws and the membership list. In March of 2015, the Equity Task Force, formerly the Key Communicators Advisory Committee, was renamed. At that time, the board approved the objectives and the list of members. Since then, the work of the Equity Task Force has increased, which has led us to update the bylaws and our list of members. So what you see in front of you are a list of members and updates to the bylaws to provide more structure, as well as guidelines for the Equity Task Force.
We understand.
Hearing voices.
Okay. Board questions or comments?
Actually,
Ms. Park.
I think I'm an alternate now, and I think Ms. Mason, aren't you the school board?
Believe that's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
is that it?
Yeah, because you had, yeah.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
2 others, yeah. Yeah, so congratulations. I don't know if that's my job to tell you that, but we'll figure that out
Yeah.
backstage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question on the bylaws. Are
Yes.
these, is this a totally new draft? Or is this just a some small tweaks or?
Small tweaks.
Okay.
Emphasis on membership, attending meetings, of course, emphasis mainly on the objectives and making sure that they are in line with our mission of every child by name and by need through the equity lens is what we're doing. But looking at membership, and I'll share with you, because if you start doing math, you'll say, this doesn't add up. What we found was there's a 3-year term on the Equity Task Force. So what you see with the list of community members, those with asterisks are those who will go out or who are up for reappointment, I should say, in June of 2017. That's when that term really ends. But as I mentioned, because of the nature of the work and because of the intensity, we wanted to bring in folks who were really interested in the work and who could help us really push this vision. So we wanted your approval of bringing in new folks while we are transitioning some out.
Okay. Dr. Coleman?
Yes, so, Mr. Chair, relative to this report, what are we doing today?
This is for information at this meeting. Next meeting, it comes to us for approval, and it's really just a consent to the update of the bylaws as well as the membership.
Okay, so we can entertain some limited discussion today? All right.
Yeah.
Back.
I believe so. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right. First of all, I commend the 2 persons who came to share for public comments, and I know we will not discuss either one. I didn't know either one of them was going to be speaking, but both of them touched on issues that impact equity and the outcomes that happen when we have equity. So I first want to say, and Jenny, thank you for all that you have done. And I know that last year, particularly during that Dunbar situation, we had a telephone call, and your insights were really helpful on that telephone call around trying to make sense of certain types of things. And so as I see that School Board Member Mason will be joining that group, just want to just say that. But this is a very serious piece of what we do. And it is clear to me that there are some observations that of recent we have been paying more attention to issues that deal with equity. And I don't know whether or not Superintendent Braybrand, that is a testament to the fact that that is something that you and your staff have been deliberate in. Some would wonder whether or not it's just because OCR has their foot on us. In either case, I certainly sense that there is an intentional effort for us to deal with some of the serious pieces. We received data a couple of meetings ago about the outcomes relative to federal results. We'll be getting the state results. And I say all to say this. This is something that is so deeply important. We have to deal with it. So, Ethel, I commend you for what you do. I'm not always sure whether or not, I know that we have a directorship around behavior, and then we have equity. Now, as we seek to formulate this task force, borrowed from insights from the Roanoke Public Schools, we have to have a task force of people who are going to be serious, committed, and engaged, who do not need to feel intimidated if they raise a question or bring up a concern that somehow it is going to impact their well-being or those around them. But this is some serious stuff. And I want to ask you, Ethel, do you feel as though that these these task force members that you're presenting to us today, are they individuals that you trust can have the serious conversations and raise the serious questions without fear of intimidation or repercussions around certain types of things? I have notes here before me now about serious questions that need an answer and should have an answer. And if we're serious about equity, they need to be dealt with. And so this is not something that is just something to do. Do you feel that way, Ethel?
Right. So the nomination process, or what we did was we, members of the task force actually submitted names to me. Some board members submitted names to me of people who we believe could make a difference and would really do exactly what you just stated. Our first meeting with this group, of course, board approval, it takes place on the 20th, will be on the 22nd. And at that meeting, we will have to explain to each of these members just what you're saying, the importance of being present, engaged, supportive, and courageous, because it takes that kind of leadership in order to do this kind of work. So if I could follow up with you and let you know how that meeting, well, you'll be at that meeting, but let you know how that goes, because I have not met each of the members here, but look forward to doing that at our September meeting.
Thank you, Ethel, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to say that, because we should properly vet. Anything that is important. And it can't be that we just rubber stamp or just pass along anything. So, including myself, you've got to come to the meeting, you've got to be productive, you've got to do the research, you've got to be strong enough to fairly and squarely deal with the issues. It's something that we've got to be trained on, and this board cannot passively just approve who those members are without assurance that they're going to actually do the work that is before us, because we are getting better, but there are areas where we are not. And they have to be dealt with, and you've got to have a support for this area, the legitimate support, the financial support, the resource support, the good research and statements that are being made so that we can deal with these things. Now, I circulated an independent document, I think, to every member of the school board. And the last school board meeting, we talked about teachers, and I asked a question about vetting. And it would appear to me we have seen the effects of programs that recruit mostly a certain group of persons, middle class, college graduates, to tough schools, only to see higher teacher turnover, ineffective teaching, and increasing achievement gaps. And so we got to fix this problem. And I am making this statement because I applaud the superintendent's initiative to go out and find how we're going to do this. The Empowerment Academy, and thank you, David, for your swift response. But there are some people who have a notion that the students at the Empowerment Academy, for instance, are not getting the same type of service that they would have gotten had they been in the other two schools. So when these perceptions are out here, it's our job to try to deal with them, articulate them, and the equity piece is not a joke. It is serious work. And the people who want to offer themselves for public service need to know that it is serious work, that it is a priority of this school division, and that we are prepared to put behind it the necessary support systems for the director and the superintendent to get this job done, and not so incrementally that it won't happen until 2116.
Other comments? Mr. Polly?
Just looking over the list of the people who make up the equity task force, is Dr. Chad Starks, is he no longer, I didn't see his name on there.
Dr. Starks served as a consultant with us,
Okay.
and we are in negotiations with our plan. If you would look back at our equity, forget the name of, we had an equity plan with some work that you all reviewed, the quadrants, what we want to do. We're looking at how it is that we can bring him in as one of our consultants to help us with the work.
Okay, thank you.
Other board members? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item G4. This is a new item that was amended. It's the VSBA Policy Services Contract. This comes to us for information tonight and for approval at our next meeting. Dr. Brabrand?
Yes, the VSBA contract is a, let me get to it and say whether I was going to say whether it was yearly or 3 years. It is a yearly that has renewable for 4 additional 1 years. This VSBA contract allows us to get our annual policy updates from the VSBA. As you know, we've been transitioning. When I got here, we sort of had our own policies that existed separate from VSBA. I found that put us in situations, whether it would be around equity or uniforms or grading, that just put us in different positions than the majority of school divisions in the state. So we began working on, and Ben has spent hours and hours, Ben and Barbara, I guess I should give Barbara Saunders the credit too, of working to convert and bring you updated policies from Lynchburg City Schools in alignment with VSBA. We're still keeping some of our original policy beliefs and language, but we're putting it into this VSBA format. The contract will allow us to continue to do that. It also lets us have access to VSBA staff members, and we have VSBA services like the retreat we took up this past spring for the first time, and we have access to their attorney for legal questions that we think are better answered by a VSBA attorney rather than our city attorney. So we bring to you this information on this contract tonight. It's $3,000, and we would ask for you to review it and look at supporting it as action at our meeting on September 20th.
Questions, comments? This is a continuation of...
Yes. Contract we've had, and we have to renew it.
Okay. It'll come to us for approval at our next meeting. Next is item G4, item G5. The policy JGDZ, student parent appeals. Dr. McLean?
All right. This policy was one that the board approved along with a variety of other discipline-related policies back a couple of months ago. And our legal counsel in particular recognized a wording error that was in one of the sentences. I apologize for that, take responsibility for that, and so we just bring back this minor but substantive wording change so that it reflects what it was we had originally intended.
We're going to hold that against you. Board questions, comments? Okay, so this will come to us next meeting for approval. Thank you. Next is item H, superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Dr. Nellis. A couple of things I want to share with you. First of all, we're cooperating with the UP Foundation around a movie, Generation Found. It's around youth addiction and recovery, and it's going to be, what theater, Miss Reeves?
The Regal Theater at the River Ridge Mall.
Okay, Regal Theater at River Ridge Mall. There's a reception at 6 p.m. Ethel will be a guest speaker, the mayor of the city. Joan Foster will be a guest speaker. The reception's at 6 and the movie's at 7:30, and really talks about one community's struggle and successful dealing with youth addiction and recovery. And we certainly have that as an issue in our community and many communities going on in Virginia right now. So we hope folks will come out and learn more about that. September 8th, 6 o'clock reception, 7:30 movie. September 10th, which is Saturday, we're going to begin the first of several of our parent outreach at our neighborhood centers. This one's going to be at College Hill Neighborhood Center from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on effective communication. And so we're very excited to partner with Parks and Rec. There'll be, I think, 4 of them this year. Is that correct? And this is the first, and we'll be making sure this information gets out, and we, of course, want to share it tonight. So if you want to learn more about how to effectively communicate with the schools and your teacher and the school administration, please come to College Hill Neighborhood Center 9 to 10, only an hour, not all day, plenty of time to get on to other things, but we really think getting out, not just doing things in our schools, but out in our community can help get the word out on strategies to improve parent, teacher, and student interactions. Another set of interactions is our interactions with technology. As you know, we're extending our LCS 1 this year to the middle school, beginning with 8th grade, and distribution of Chromebooks will begin later this week at one of our middle schools. I don't know all of the dates yet, but I will get those to you for the Friday memo. I do know that this week it begins at Lincoln Middle School, and I'll put the other dates in the Friday memo for you. Early dismissal we had on Friday. Just for a reminder, and for those that are new to the board, as part of our 2-year calendar, and of course this is the second year of our 2-year calendar, we added 2 professional staff development days, not related to the end of the quarter, which have been teacher work days, when teachers work on finishing grades. So this was a half day dedicated not to teachers finishing their grades for the quarter, but for professional development. This year we tweaked it and moved it to a day that backed up onto an existing really holiday weekend, Labor Day weekend, and we had professional development in several areas on several topics, reading strategies, PBIS strategies, we had gang awareness training, lots of different topics. I do want folks to know that this is a helpful opportunity for our teachers to get additional training. We've got to find time for more training. We're doing some of it during the school day, we're doing some of it after school, but these staff development opportunities allow us to go across the school division and get teachers across grade levels and across content areas together. So I appreciate the school board and the community support for that. It's been referenced, but I just want to verify to you, next week, September 14th, state accreditation results will be out, and we will have a full report to you at the next board meeting on state accreditation results. As you know, we're really in the last year where we presented with you federal results, because there was a federal accountability design and there was a state accountability design. We're moving to one, which will be the state accountability design. You will get that full information at the next school board meeting. I want to remind you all that we continue to partner with the city on many things, including the annual Get Downtown. LCS will have a tent. We'll have students out there. I think Dunbar Middle School's Herpetology Center will be there. I don't know if every animal will be downtown, but many will be. along with some other surprises. So come downtown, stop by the LCS tent, and we encourage those, frankly, who have not chosen LCS as a school system to take a second look and see what we're doing. We'll have brochures and information available, and we hope that you'll take an opportunity to come down to learn more about LCS and to learn more about all the wonderful things that go on downtown. Finally, I want to share with you that we have 5 of our 6 new school buses in, equipped with air conditioning, that we've continued to work on, and we appreciate your support and the city's support for our capital improvement projects. Of course, now this is actually going to be operational dollars to support keeping our fleet up to date. Those are all the things we've had. We've had 3 weeks of school and are off to a good start, and we look forward to a strong September.
Thank you. Next is board comments. Dr. Coleman.
I have some comments. A question to the superintendent. When you were talking about those community nights where the parents can come, that is incredible. What typically is the way that parents who need it most, or adults who may not necessarily know how to know what is going on, how do we get that information? I know the means by which, and Cindy does a great job, I was talking to her before the meeting, but are we continuously exploring other ways to help people who really, really need to be at those sessions getting the information? And we don't need to talk about it now, but just that's good stuff.
Right. One thing that I can tell you, and Ms. Reeves may have more to add, but if you get your Parks and Rec program, which comes to every house in Lynchburg City Schools, it has these sessions outlined as part of the program of activities available this year. We need to get the word out through our schools, and we will. We need to get the word out through our school division. This is something new we haven't done before. I hope that we're going to get additional interest in responding to the community to saying, put something out there for us at a time and place that's convenient, and we'll explore multiple ways of trying to get this information out. But if there are ways that you think that we should do that we're not doing, please let myself or Ms. Reeves know, and we'll make sure they happen.
Yeah, and thank you for letting me answer. That's just good. It's good.
Good.
Now, if I can't read,
and actually it's Saturday morning, it's not an evening, so this is a chance to try to get parents on a Saturday morning. Hopefully you can go to that and still make time for your child's soccer or football or other late morning or afternoon activity. 9 to 10 is late enough in the morning to be up, but early enough in the morning to make sure there's time to have other things in your day.
but if I can't read, it can be in whatever that you giving it to me. I wouldn't know it because I can't read. And or
Right.
if my dog gets to it before I get to it,
Right.
or my little 2-year-old uses it and balls it up and uses it as a baseball. I'm just saying, I think that there are some aggressive ways or assertive ways to match these excellent ideas. I mean, you're not going to get some of the ideas that I hear around this table. To the degree we have data that shows that there is an actual positive outcome from it. And just doing things, and whatever they may be, training for whomever and in whatever matter, if it doesn't result in measurable growth and support, it's nice to say we've had it. But that's all I'm concerned about. It's
Right.
just too good of an idea
Right.
for us not to be aggressive.
We're going to do everything we can to get the word out, and I know we have informal networks that we've reached out to with some of our different partners, and I'll make sure that we're doing everything we can this week to get the word out. Part of it is I would encourage all of you too that you have your own networks as board members and community members listening tonight. Get the word out. 9 a.m. at College Hill Neighborhood Center, 1 hour effective communication. Come out, meet with our folks, and let's continue to work together.
Other board comments? Ms. Carter.
Just want to say that the Laurel School had their ribbon cutting for the ramp that goes to the playground. And so that was great. Something as minor, or that's not a minor theme, but something like that that helps give more access to the playground, so that was great. It was last Thursday. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Coleman?
I would like to say that it was wonderful, as you all did, to see the state team come in over at Heritage High School. That was really great. Just to be there to listen to the responses. And the librarian at Heritage Elementary School should be commended. I just think that how she framed her thoughts, as an educator myself, I hadn't thought about the fact that the library is no longer necessarily the sanctuary of silence, but it is a hub where so much goes on to help kids to get better. And I just thought that was real good. And then it was nice to be at Heritage Elementary for the back to school piece and to see the First Lady and the superintendent and all the Miss Anderson. That was just a really good program to witness.
I'll just throw out, we will be having a special piece with our food and nutrition program at our next board meeting. Get ready to be dazzled and come hungry. Dazzled. That's right.
Any other comments?
Oh, sorry.
Sure. Mr. Polly. Yeah, the chair recognizes Mr. Polly.
Saturday, we are having the championship for the Summer League. I'm sorry, not the championship. We're having an all-star game under the lights. It's going to be Saturday night at Miller Park. We're giving the kids who won, or the kids who are going to play on the all-star team, to get a chance to play at night under the lights. They're very excited about it, and it just gives us another opportunity to kind of wrap our arms around them and continue this relationship as they move throughout the school year. So I believe it's a tailgating party, I believe, from 6 to 8 at the Miller Center. Then I believe we're going to have the kids playing from when the sun starts going down. So once again, the basketball is just a byproduct, but having the relationship and kicking off the semester, establishing the relationship with the kids, I think is the best thing about the Summer League. So I encourage everyone to come out, support the kids, build the relationships before something happens, so we're not being reactive and we can be proactive. So just wanted to throw that out there to you guys.
I'd love to say we'll have, I don't know whether I would even call myself a celebrity chef or a celebrity, either way, but the police chief and I were invited as the Lynchburg Police Department and Lynchburg City Schools work with Parks and Rec around this summer program, so we will be there grilling from 6 to 8 before the games begin.
Right.
So come out and have a hot dog or hamburger, and I'll try not to burn. I know some of you over there are not so sure. I'm sorry, Ben, Jay. But I promise I'll do my best to cook good food, and it'll be a wonderful opportunity. I think it's been a great partnership between 3 agencies, all that are really the city and schools together, coming together and creating something special, and I think there's only more good things that are going to come from that. Some of those issues, frankly, around lighting in parks were raised in the Equity Task Force, and it's great to see something go from talk to action to celebration. So there are really some things happening that are positive, and we want and will see more.
There's no other comments. Final informational item, our next board meeting is Tuesday, September 20th at 5:30 here in the boardroom. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.